Hey everyone, I'm rather Incoherent. I'm still alive, back on my bullshit again, back to content creation. I'm not gonna get into the parasocial details of why I stepped away from content creation for the better part of a year, but I'm back, I'm doing Arkham Horror, so let's talk about what I'll be doing next. And I'm gonna be doing a good chunk of analysis in the next week or two before I start getting into the rhythm of gameplay on a Hemlock Vale run. And for that Hemlock Vale run, I'm gonna be running double flex with Winifred as one of my investigators and Vincent Lee as another one. I'm going to cover these decks more in a second, but I do just want to say, one of the worst parts about overanalyzing the shit out of Arkham Horror is that you decide to play one campaign on one set of investigators, you make a bunch of videos and think about a bunch of things unrelated to that, and before you know it, the Guardians only Kluver Wilson shotgun mark run you had planned, yeah, scrap all of that, we've gotten hyped about new decks. So that's on the back burner for future campaigns, and you might see one of those investigators or even both of them together at some point in the distant future. But for now, the next campaign I'll be playing and I do actual gameplay on the channel will be the Double Flex campaign, where I replay and optimize a Vincent Lee deck that I loved the first time I played it in a custom campaign, and where I give Winifred a shot for what I feel like is some of the most broken shit she can do. Let's start with Vincent Lee, because I feel like I have more expertise with this character. And with Vincent Lee, while he was great in the campaign that I played him through, that was a custom campaign, and with one campaign of experience where Vincent Lee really blew me away, I'm left with the feeling of like, was the custom campaign tuned in a way that was beneficial to Vincent Lee or just generally too easy? Was Vincent Lee just overperforming and having high variance? I look at the deck and I'm feeling like it's kind of scrappy and not as reliable as it should be, and maybe my teammates were doing a ton of work and letting Vincent Lee slack more than he could. Like, I look at this and I know it's to some degree a different but worse version of a Flex Mark, but I don't know if that makes it bad. Like, Flex Mark is one of the best characters in the game. So is this Flex Vincent Lee worse in that he's like an A tier or even A plus investigator? Or is he worse like he's sitting down in B tier? I don't know, and I want to replay him to figure it out. Runic Axe is the core of the deck. You're going to be using the Inscription of the Elders to find a lot of clues while compressing actions. And if you miss with that, you just toss Live and Learn at the skill test because, I mean, don't swing over, obviously, but Live and Learn allows you to avoid wasting your charges. This can easily be upgraded to a Strong Arm, it's just not a priority. You need to run Surgical Kit just to deal with Wounded Bystander, it's the only good answer to it, but it has some built-in synergy with Bandages and Guard Dogs, allowing you to do the Thorns tank thing really well, and you need more than just one method of fighting to be a flex, so I really like Guard Dog as the second option. With 3-1 to the Mythos, you need some work to keep yourself safe to the Mythos phase. Sparrow Mask gets you to 5-3, and since Jessica Hyde will be putting Unexpected Courage into my hand every turn with Vincent Lee's on the mend, you can sort of say that we're at +4/+4 Mythos stats, and certainly 7-5 is good enough not to be overly worried about it, especially as a character that specializes in self-healing in the first place. So I feel Mythos safe, I feel like I can do enough fighting. It's definitely draw reliant, but in Seeker Survivor, I've got At a Crossroads, I've got Deep Knowledge, I've got Perceptions that are potentially being duplicated. I feel like I have the draw to reliably hit all the things I need to do my job and survive. Oh, I haven't really mentioned the getting clues part beyond the Runic Axe. I'm not gonna pump my book at all. I'm going to be relying entirely on assembling good skills at low to moderate shroud values, and if it's a high shroud value, I'm intending to use the Runic Axe to bypass it. This character is not a put your nose to the grindstone and dig in the bag sort of clue finder. I am entirely using combo cards to get around shroud values. I will never go to a 5 shroud location and dig in the bag like a main Kluver Seeker might. That is not the solution to those locations, not on this character. However, it might be on the Winifred Flex I'm playing. The argument for Winifred being tremendously better than I gave her credit for essentially goes as follows. Winifred doesn't draw 3 cards a turn. That's the minimum result of her ability. Winifred should be drawing pretty much her whole damn deck every turn. And that's an enticing thing to say, because it means you're Mythos immune because you just commit Savant and another skill, and you pass every Mythos phase. It means you have a lot more actions because if you draw your whole deck every turn, then you're playing Ace in the Hole every turn. And if you're able to draw your whole deck every turn, then like you can pretty reliably get all of your 1-of assets in play, 2-ofs on the ones that you're actually going to be using 2-of. It's a really appealing concept. The idea of drawing Ace in the Hole and a Pilfer every turn, the idea of only needing 1 sleight of hand and 1 Thieves Kit because it's always going to be together, knowing you draw so much you'll quickly assemble combos. That's all super appealing. I don't have a ton of confidence looking at this on the surface. I feel like I'm going to show up and like I can trip guys, and hopefully we draw a lot of cards with our skills really quickly. Maybe we'll bum an Ace in the Hole or a Crossroads off of Vincent, but like, I feel as though this has some setup time to get going. The counterpoint to that is, if you're playing Ace in the Hole every turn, you're taking 2 turns around. So it doesn't really matter if you set up, right? If your first 3 turns are basically all draw and play assets to get this online, then that's probably fine. So I'm interested in seeing if the Winifred build actually can go straight to the moon. The Winifreds I've seen, like solid A-tier investigators that I've frankly been underranking. But this Winifred build threatens to be infinitely more cool than that and break into my A+. Depending on how well and consistent it does from scenario 1, who knows, maybe it could get to S. But this is a really enticing thing to aim for. Going to the level 0 version, it's decidedly worse. You don't have all of your core assets, you don't have all of your upgraded events, namely, you don't have the good Opportunist. Opportunist changes your ability from every card is worth half of a card, to as long as you're passing by 2 or 3 with the unupgraded version, every card is worth a whole card. And that is a tremendous difference in how many cards you get out of your ability. So Opportunist is super core, but coming down to the level 0 version, with worse stats and worse skills and worse assets, it's gonna be harder to maintain a more difficult Opportunist number. Generally, the deck's got a lot lower throughput here. I'm really looking forward to getting into the bigger deck, and I'm not quite sure how well the level 0 version is going to work. That same thing is also very true for level 0 Vincent. And normally, I would stress about these things and try to make sure they work, and I think I'm past that with these characters. These characters, I'm like, no, fuck them. If these decks don't work at level 0 as a team, then they're bad flex characters and they should feel bad about it. There's no use trying to make this more consistent in some way, or that. They should be consistent already. If that sounds like dismissive and not my usual style, I think the reason I'm feeling that way about these flex characters, in particular their level 0 versions, less so the higher level versions, I have some faith in those, is because I feel like I don't have a grasp on how it feels to play flex characters that aren't bulletproof. I feel like I try to make flex better than it otherwise would be until it's unreasonably refined. And I think I don't have an accurate metric. I don't really understand how rough around the edges and tattered and scrappy you can get away with being anymore. I think I've been optimizing the game for so long that I overestimate how good your deck actually needs to be. Which is part of why I'm being really laissez-faire and not giving a shit about these level 0 versions. I think they probably have problems, and I'm not even going to attempt to solve them because I want to see what those problems actually translate to, or if those problems even exist. Now, normally in a session 0 for a campaign, I would spend some time talking about that specific campaign. For Hemlock Vale, slight problem, I don't really remember the 2 runs of Hemlock Vale I've done. I'm not even certain which characters I was playing. I know I played a fighter in one of them. I know Knight 2 is going to be a problem. And in general, there are a couple of things in Hemlock Vale where I looked at it and I was like, I'm not sure how that's balanced, and my whole table came away thinking like it wasn't. So I'm going to enjoy really paying attention to Hemlock and trying to get a better read on it as a campaign this time. I've got no idea what I plan to do in terms of where I go and when or what endings I shoot for. I've got no idea how the Mythos deck is balanced, and again, I'm not going to really worry about optimizing that. You don't need to counter tech campaigns, so let's go ahead and throw Joe Diamond in the meat grinder and just see what the Mythos deck does to these guys. Maybe this one in foot's really bad. Maybe this one in head's really bad. One of them should definitely be a problem at some point. And my teams don't normally have holes like this, so I'm happy that this one does. Additionally, like I was mentioning, I really don't think these characters are that vulnerable. Sparrow Mask plus On the Men gets this to 7-5, and this one looks bad until you're cycling your whole deck every turn and you're always committing, what is it, anything you can do better and Savant to the Mythos phase, and it's like, oh, you literally can't fail, and then you draw a card. I think that the opening scenarios of this campaign might be rough, but I'm pretty confident in these characters eventually being strong enough to crush the campaign, and I'm interested in what I'll learn along the way. Before I wrap up this video, since I've been gone for so long, I'm gonna give a quick update on the sort of analysis content you can expect to come soon. I'm probably gonna have about a week of analysis content coming, in part because of the Hunters of the Mythos tournament, I don't know what to describe it, community events, but in part because of that, I've got some analysis coming up on specifically that format and what I'm running in it, and I need to get that out before the actual thing starts, so that'll be coming up in the next couple of days. And since I've already recorded analysis, I like to get at least some of it out ahead of gameplay. So in like a week, I'm probably gonna start uploading footage of my upcoming Hemlock Vale campaign with these characters. Before then, I've got some stuff I've done. Obviously, you can ignore Circle and Done Episode 0, we're not going to be uploading that, or rather, we will, but it's going to sit unlisted, probably forever, because this campaign probably isn't happening in the original intention. But I've got a video coming up talking about big guns sort of being a dead space in design for a while now. I revisited Daryl to see how much the taboo affect him and how strong I really think he is. I also looked at decks I'm really looking forward to playing, one of which was this Winifred deck, and 5 of my favorite decks I've ever played, one of which was this Vincent deck. Those are the 2 videos that really caused me to, after I made them, reevaluate what I wanted to play. I've done a spoiler review for the Drowned City. I've got a video talking about how I decided what I was going to play for Serial and analyzing that as a format. And I also went through and just looked at every cycle and talked about what I felt were the strongest cards from each cycle. Or more accurately, the strongest card with honorable mentions to the things that were worth considering competing with it. These are my finished videos. There are a couple of videos that are just in recording right now and their names don't mean anything because they're all just numbers. I've got an analysis on Rex talking about whether or not the scaling of abilities matter and how important early game power is compared to late game power, because Rex is actually somewhat iconic of that, inspired by someone else's tier list. I also have another video coming up for the Hunters of the Mythos, not for me talking about the Serial format, but me talking about what we intend to do, my tabletop group, the other actual people I play with, for a normal standard multiplayer run that we'll be doing with the intention of getting as many points as physically possible. And after I've uploaded about 3/4 probably of all this analysis content, I'll start uploading the gameplay content from Hemlock Vale. Anyways, let's wrap this up. I've been rather incoherent, and it's been nice getting back into content production. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, all that algorithm nonsense really does help. And I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and of course, a massive thank you to the 2 Patreons that have stuck with me throughout my massive hiatus. It is greatly appreciated.